In the final battle between humanity's last hope Aiden and the demon queen of the swarm, an earth-shattering conflict erupted. The world trembled as everything around them was obliterated into dust. Although he successfully defeated the demon queen, the price was his own life. After all, every power comes with a cost. Before fading away, Aiden held a fervent belief that he would reunite with his fallen comrades, but life isn't a fairy tale. Aiden was isekai'd into another world and had to start over from scratch. Somewhere on Earth, a young man was trying to get his dazed friend's attention. "Chansu, what are you doing? We have to assemble now." That's right, this young man named Chansu was the body Aiden had transmigrated into. From now on, Aiden was Chansu of this world. After composing himself, he told his friend Jen that he was fine. In this world, hunters held a completely different status compared to ordinary people, and our protagonist Chansu was the lowest-ranked grunt in the dungeon hierarchy, a cleaner. Just as the name implies, cleaners are responsible for disposing of the monster corpses that hunters kill and are paid a pittance. Inside the dungeons, their lives are the most expendable, and they can be used as meat shields at any moment. A week has passed since that dungeon dive. Chansu has now fully integrated his memories. In this body's previous life, Chansu had not yet awakened as a hunter. Despite retaining his past life's memories, he couldn't use mana, even though his mind and body remembered it vividly. But knowing how to swim is useless without water. The next day, Chansu and Jen were scheduled to receive their next dungeon raid assignment, but a surprise awaited them. The next dungeon they were sent to was Mara's Labyrinth, a dungeon where a C-rank guild was once completely wiped out. Now the hunter party and the cleaner team stood before the gate. Before entering, the leader conducted a roll call and assigned positions to everyone in the squad once more. Everyone looked anxious. They seemed pessimistic about this raid, but were forced to obey the commander's orders. After preparations were complete, everyone began to enter the dungeon gate. The hunter party led the way, followed by the cleaner team. Chansu had a bad feeling about this raid. After all, a D-rank hunter party challenging a C-rank dungeon was basically a suicide mission. Beyond the gate lay a massive cave with countless stalactites hanging from the ceiling and covering the floor. They hadn't gone far before two young hunters noticed something was wrong. This place was completely different from what they had heard before. At that moment, Jen and Chansu could also feel the hunters' anxiety. Everything seemed to foreshadow the danger ahead. Just then, the cave suddenly shook with a loud noise. All the hunters entered a combat stance. A bizarre monster suddenly emerged from the darkness, followed by countless other pairs of glowing eyes. Faced with the horde of monsters, the will of a few hunters began to waver. "Hey, isn't this a bit much for just the entrance? This is too suspicious." To boost morale, the leader was the first to charge forward. "Don't hesitate. If you want your pay, then fight. Even if there are many, they're just a bunch of bugs." He used his large shield to block the monster's attack, then struck its weak point with his sword. It wasn't long before the first monster was defeated. The other hunters, their morale boosted, charged forward in unison. One by one, the monsters were surrounded and struck down. After the monster mob was wiped out, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief, but as the Commander Goman quickly rallied the raid party to face the mid-boss of the Rara dungeon the mid-boss had the form of. A giant turtle with countless stone spikes on its back and razor-sharp claws, Goman didn't hesitate to command the whole party. "Team to charge forward, avoid its tail and aim for the head, protect yourselves," but no sooner had he spoken than 3 people were struck down by the mid-boss's massive mace-like tail. Then it used its enormous body to leap into the air. Clinging to the stone wall with its sharp claws, you really can't judge a book by its cover. The boss's colossal body was incredibly agile. Engaging it in close-quarters combat was a death sentence. Now it was the mage's turn to shine after a moment of chanting. Their incantations, countless mages simultaneously launched a volley of fireballs forward. The mid-boss was suppressed by the sheer firepower, unable to move after the bombardment. The mid-boss was charred black and lay completely still. The hunters saw their chance and rushed in to claim the loot, but no matter what they tried, they couldn't even scratch the mid-boss's scales with such an insane defense stat. How could that magic barrage have possibly damaged it? Just then, the mid-boss slowly rose to its feet, its 2 eyes glowing a furious red. Like blood, it turned its head toward the hunter with a look that screamed surprise. Sucker the hunter was now paralyzed with fear. Completely powerless and rooted to the spot, the mid-boss instantly opened its massive maw and spewed out a venomous substance, a vile green. This toxin was extremely corrosive. Anything it touched dissolved instantly. The male hunter at that moment was reduced to nothing more than a puddle. The subjugation squad fell into a panic as everyone scrambled to escape. The briefing said nothing about a poison breath attack. Everyone, retreat contact means instant death. You guys on the edge get back. The poison is spreading through the air. Only Jin remained calm, coolly assessing the situation. He seemed to sense that something was. Amiss Goman was now trembling uncontrollably, but as the commander he couldn't just run away like a coward. Mustering all his courage, he commanded the team. "What are you all doing? This is not the time to stand around frozen. We just need to stop its poison breath to finish this." But everyone was paralyzed with fear by the toxic gas. Too scared to move forward, with no other choice, Goman had to charge in alone. He used his maximum agility to close the distance to the mid-boss. Then he launched himself into the air, and with a single decisive slash, Goman successfully decapitated the monster. The hunters finally snapped out of it and immediately started brown-nosing. "That's our party leader for you. He's truly worthy of his C-rank title." You never see this lot when there's danger, but they swarm like vultures once the fighting is over, while the party was regrouping, checking their equipment, and tending to the wounded. A giant monstrous bird suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The creature's enormous body was covered in purple plumage with 3 legs and a reptilian tail. This was none other than the final boss of the Rara dungeon. The entire party of hunters stared in stunned silence. A field boss isn't supposed to spawn this early in the raid. Now no one had the mana or stamina left for another boss fight. Before the party could even react, the boss began its assault. It soared high into the air and started raining its feathers down on them. Only Commander Goman realized the danger and immediately used an antidote. He quickly shouted a warning to his teammates. "Inject the antidotes. Now the feathers are poisoned." Touching its feathers causes nerve paralysis, but it was already too late. Most of the people had already come into contact with the feathers. The fragile minds of the humans were stimulated. Deep-seated fear was triggered in their minds, and all the hunters dropped their weapons and started to run, fleeing for their lives. At this moment, Mr. Gomoon finally realized that this was not a corporate dungeon at all. He was utterly helpless, falling to his knees as he watched the chaotic scene unfold. Meanwhile, Su, with his quick reflexes, managed to avoid the cloud of feathers. From his experience, he knew that he had to leave before the boss went into a frenzy. After thinking it through, he turned to Ren and said, "Ren, call the other collectors and let's get out of here quickly." But something was wrong with Ren. He had been hit by the boss's skill, and his mind was clouded by greed. "Why would we leave a place like this? We can get that treasure. How could I possibly leave? Don't you see? Everything here is valuable, even the sword dropped from a poisoned hunter is worth 200 million. There must be even more expensive things. So much money, that shield too. It's worth several hundred million." Seeing this, Su tried to get his friend out of this place as quickly as possible, but that action completely drove Ren mad. Ren grabbed a sword and pinned Su to the ground, shouting, "Let go of me. If you want to leave, then go by yourself. Don't get in my way. It's all mine. All this money is for my sister. I need money. My little sister is sick. I need money to cure her. Why couldn't I become a hunter? Why? Why does my sister have to suffer like this? I want to live happily with my sister. I just want her to be happy." Under the effect of the poison, Ren vented all his pent-up frustrations. It turns out that a person who always seemed so cheerful and optimistic could hold so much turmoil inside. After hearing this, Su gave up resisting. He slowly released his hand that was gripping the blade and let Ren stab down at him. Luckily, Ren still had a sliver of reason left and deflected the sword's path, not piercing Su's head. Just a little more and our protagonist would have been done for right there. Su slowly took Ren's hand and comforted him. "It's okay. It's okay, Ren. If we leave here, you can see your sister again." And just like that, the power of friendship worked its magic. Ren gradually regained his senses after realizing what he had just done. He cried endlessly and apologized. Su didn't pay any mind to his actions. He knew that Ren wasn't in his right mind at that moment. After confirming that everything was okay, the two of them decided to leave quickly. But just then, Ren suddenly tensed up and stared intently past Su. Then he raised his sword and charged forward. Su thought that he was about to be cut down, but it turned out Ren had just saved his life. When Su came to his senses, Ren had been struck by Mr. Gomoon with a single slash. Blood sprayed everywhere. It turned out Mr. Go-moon had also been hit by the boss's skill and had gone berserk. He was swinging his sword and cutting down everyone in his sight. Ren was just an ordinary person, so he couldn't block the attack of a hunter. He lost too much blood and died on the spot. This scene reminded Sue of how his comrades had fallen in his past life when, "I heard Ren say he had someone to protect. I just thought it was empty words." Would he really do it, or was it just talk? "I'm the one who understands best. Ren sacrificed himself to protect me. If I let his action become meaningless, then he will have died. In vain, but I have to make one thing certain. The hunter named Go-moon will die today." Sue picked up 2 swords from the ground and held them firmly in his hands. His eyes were filled with determination and his body radiated a dangerous aura. Go-moon, seeing this, he laughed loudly. "Hey, look at that guy, isn't he cute? You planning on playing with 2 swords? Sorry, but this isn't a playground." But he had no idea that X was now on a whole new level. He had just sacrificed his best friend to activate his first-time purchase package, and the power of a VIP top-up is usually very dangerous. That's why Go-moon was mind-controlled even after using an antidote. It was because his psyche had already been shattered. The failed dungeon raid had caused the entire team to collapse, and the hunters were wiped out, but Go-moon refused to admit it was his own poor leadership's fault and instead looked for someone else to blame. How could this have happened? "No, it's not my fault, I'm always right." "That's it, it's because of those damn cleanup crew members. They're a nuisance to all hunters. That insect doesn't deserve to live. I'll make you pay for this failure." "Go to hell! Die, you useless bastard!" Go-moon raised his sword and began relentlessly slashing and killing the ordinary members of the cleanup crew. The more he killed, the more frenzied he became. Just then, X caught his eye and became the next target. Luckily, Ren took a sword blow for him. Go-moon, now completely insane, looked at Shu and laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha! I thought you'd be trembling before you died. I guess even insects have some pride." "Huh? What are you planning to do with that? Don't tell me you're actually planning to duel me. We were never on the same level to begin with. I'm a hunter, I have powers. What do you have? Aren't you just some punk who hasn't even awakened? I'll take out those defiant eyes of yours first." While Go-moon was busy trash-talking, Shu suddenly vanished and circled behind him, but as a C-rank hunter, Go-moon managed to react in time and used his shield to block the attack. Being attacked while he was monologuing made Go-moon furious. He swung his sword fiercely forward. "You son of a bitch, I was still talking." X, relying on his combat experience from a past life, could easily dodge the attack. After creating some distance, he calmly devised a strategy: "I can move. Even though he's unstable, he's still a hunter, a truly corrupt hunter. Let's see if your regular training does you any good now." At that moment, Sue noticed the boss, Rara, standing quietly in one spot. It was waiting for its prey to slaughter each other for entertainment. But now wasn't the time to worry about that. After that, X rushed in to close the distance and relentlessly attacked Go-moon. Despite his vast combat experience, Sue's body couldn't keep up with his mind's movements. He was gradually pushed into a disadvantageous position, getting hit by grazing attacks. If only he possessed even 1% of his past life's power, this Go-moon guy would be nothing. But the one who lost his composure was surprisingly Go-moon. "You bastard! How can a mere cleanup crew member like you move like that?" Hearing this, Sue let out a smirk. I didn't expect him to get flustered so suddenly after realizing he wasn't dominating the fight. "It seems I spent a bit too much time strategizing, going with the flow." X immediately provoked his opponent. "What's that? What did you ask? Do you need someone to teach you how to breathe, too?" Go-moon couldn't stand the provocation and immediately rushed forward to attack. But no matter what he did, he couldn't land a critical hit on Sue. On the contrary, Sue always timed his attacks perfectly, striking at his opponent's weak spots. He was seizing the rhythm of the battle. Again and again he retreated. But the one who lost his composure was surprisingly Go-moon. "You bastard! How can a mere cleanup crew member like you move like that?" Hearing this, Sue let out a smirk. I didn't expect him to get flustered so suddenly after realizing he wasn't dominating the fight. "It seems I spent a bit too much time strategizing, going with the flow." X immediately provoked his opponent. "What's that? What did you ask? Do you need someone to teach you how to breathe too?" Go-moon couldn't stand the provocation. He immediately rushed forward to attack, But no matter what he did, he couldn't land a critical hit on Su. On the contrary, Su always timed his attacks perfectly, striking at his opponent's weak spots and seizing the rhythm of the battle. Su continued his assault, inflicting more and more wounds on Gomon. Realizing the dire situation, Gomon immediately retreated. His mind was in utter chaos. Damn it, what the hell is happening? How am I getting beaten by some nobody? A mere cleaner impossible. Gomon lost his composure, using every enhancement skill he possessed and recklessly charging forward, like a moth to a flame. Su calmly closed his eyes and sensed his opponent's attack. He's getting closer? He's using all of his abilities, so I can't track him with my naked eye. He's too fast, but I can still predict his trajectory. His method of attack is incredibly foolish. His attack patterns are completely predictable. Even with the handicap of his eyes, Su still effortlessly dodged the attack and shattered Gomon's sword. The moment Su opened his eyes, Gomon's right leg went flying. Covered in blood, he collapsed to the ground but continued to talk tough. "You damn brat! Do you think you can escape?" Su, still perfectly calm, said to him, "That disguise of yours is quite convincing. Are you going to come to your senses? Before you die? Regardless, I'm certain you're someone who deserves to die." But Gomon showed no sign of repentance at all. "How ridiculous! That's absurd. I'm a hunter, a failure like you who hasn't even awakened." Su couldn't stand any more of this nonsense, so with a single sword stroke he sent Gomon's head flying. His eyes were emotionless and filled with hatred. In this life he would not spare anyone or anything that tried to harm what he vowed to protect. After the battle ended, Su finally had time to look around him. There was nothing but blood and cold corpses everywhere. Only Su was left, standing. What a bloody massacre! It's been a long time since I've seen so many bodies. It's because I was always alone, for several hundred years in my past life. Just then, Su felt a surge of mana flowing through his body. Could this be the awakening as a hunter that everyone always talks about? Suddenly, a system window materialized before his eyes. Following that were continuous level-up notifications. Su then followed instructions he'd seen online to open his status window. He was currently at level 6, all his stats were at 10, and he had 25 bonus points. The ability Su awakened was E-rank Executioner. Description: executes heretics. D-rank ability: absorbs the karmic fire of heretics and converts it into power. Looking at the status window before him, Su sighed. How ironic. Those who truly crave this power end up losing their own chance, while someone like me ends up awakening. The emotional atmosphere was suddenly shattered by the screech of a Jara. It was circling overhead, preparing to finish off the last remaining prey. Su then added 1 point to mana, raising it from 0 to 1. It's only a difference of 1 point, but the gap between 0 and 1 is as vast as heaven and earth. Don't think I'm the same as before. Come on. Just then, the monster was preparing to charge and attack, but Su still had enough time for a monologue. Why does mana in this world operate this way? Everyone just spams their skills, wasting so much mana. They're just happy about having awakened without fully considering everything that comes with it. That's why they've become arrogant. Su closed his eyes and began to sense the flow of mana within his body. The fundamental way to use the mana in one's body through the mana circuits is to adjust its path to optimize the flow, which in turn strengthens the body, and to slowly expand the mana capacity within the body to absorb more, thereby finding the most efficient path to. By maximizing his power this way, Su launched the sword in his hand at an incredible speed. Despite its immense power, the attack's accuracy wasn't very high. The blade grazed Rara's head, startling the already wounded beast. It shrieked in pain from the head wound, but Su gave it no respite, immediately leaping into the air and severing one of its wings. After that, he enveloped his body in mana and clung to the steep wall to prepare. To deliver the finishing blow, Su had to gather all the mana in his body and unleash it in a single explosive moment. He burst forward with immense force and easily sliced the boss monster in half. After defeating the boss, Su scanned the area to make sure that no other monsters were around. He then promptly collapsed from exhaustion. This body still couldn't adapt to such a high intensity. In his unconscious state, Su dreamed of his past life. One day, on the continent of Aslan, countless disasters were unleashed by the Demon Queen and ravaged the world. The 8 races of the Aslan continent sent forth their representatives to fight together against the unknown enemy. Although the foe was incredibly powerful, the 8 races united and overcame many difficult battles. Finally, after countless arduous battles, they achieved victory. But just as the dream was reaching its peak, the Demon Queen's voice echoed. "Is this the future you hoped for, you poor Aiden? Where can you possibly run when the stars in the heavens have all been extinguished? And yet, you still cling to hope. Remember this, Aiden, this calamity is the result of your own incompetence. This sin will scorch your soul even in your next life." Sue jolted awake from the terrifying nightmare, realizing he was no longer inside the dungeon. He shot up from the bed in surprise. A man was already waiting by his side who said, "You're finally awake. You've been asleep for 3 days." Sue frowned and asked who the man was. Seeing this, the man then handed him a black business card. Sue took it, but before he could even read it, he asked about what had happened to the others. The man answered immediately without hiding anything, "Truly, a person with a noble heart. To think of your comrades right after waking up. The Vanguard team was completely wiped out. Everyone there, including the party leader, Mr. Coleman, was beyond saving. By the time the rescue team arrived, everything was already over. You were the only survivor there, Sue." He then asked for news about Jen, but didn't receive a specific answer. The man then moved on to the main topic. The funeral service for the fallen hunters was held at the Hunters Association headquarters. It all took place while you were unconscious. That's all you need to know. Now for the main issue, I'm sure you have realized that the Yara Labyrinth has been upgraded to a B rank. Do you have any thoughts on that? For a guild that had just been promoted to D rank, entering that dungeon was an incredible challenge. Mr. Coleman was truly unfortunate. Sue heard this and replied, "I have no opinion on that, but what did you mean when you said he was unfortunate?" The man continued, "You probably aren't aware of this. Mr. Coleman likely didn't tell anyone. He had a massive debt caused by his gambling habit. I believe that's why he decided to challenge a dungeon of such a high difficulty. Based on my speculation, the reports about the changes within the dungeon are accurate. Regarding the dungeon incident, we are still conducting a further investigation. If you happen to remember or learn anything else in the future, please inform us." We were informed that after delivering the news, the man left to give Du some time to rest. Once alone, Du placed a hand on his forehead, contemplating Jen's death and Ko's foolish actions, which had become a driving force. This motivated him to destroy Jara and awaken his abilities. At that moment, Du casually turned on the TV. It was broadcasting information about another hunter on a segment called How to Become a Hunter. Today, we will meet a special guest. She is quite a famous figure in the hunter world. We hope you have an enjoyable time watching this program. She is an SS rank hunter with the nickname Odin's Judgment. She is also a top-tier hunter from Japan. When she first awakened, she possessed a whole 4 blessed skills. This is an exceptionally rare case. Du was somewhat impressed by her. She was Japan's top hunter, more famous than movie stars, and considered an SS rank hunter. Seeing her SS rank, Du also wanted to know what his own rank was. Inside the dungeon, he hadn't had the time to examine the skill he had acquired. His skill was only E rank. Heretic's follower seems to refer to those with malicious intent towards others. It seems to have activated after he killed Koman, but how could he possibly predict who has a wicked heart? Could this be a unique skill that only he possesses? If out there are many people with malicious hearts, then this skill would be their perfect counter. But for some reason, he couldn't understand why. Its power level was only E rank. How interesting. After a few days in the hospital, Du's body had fully recovered. He quickly paid the hospital fees and began his life as a hunter. Du immediately headed towards a dungeon gate with a whirlwind of thoughts in his mind. I used to think everything was meaningless. Hunters can't even use all of the power they possess, but I'll be different. I will unleash all the power within me. Once I can understand mana and its effects, I'll be able to level up my power much faster. However, I will not let that tragedy happen again. The only thing I can do now is stand at the pinnacle of them all. At a certain hospital in the rehabilitation room, a nurse pulled the curtain and informed a patient. Your treatment is now complete. Please be careful on your way out. There are many people waiting out there. It's a good thing the hospital has the kind of substance that can help treat you. The little girl lying in the hospital bed heard this and immediately asked, "Excuse me, is it okay that I don't have a guardian?" When asked if her parents weren't with her, the little girl could only shake her head. The nurse then checked the girl's information. You're Egawa E, right? Recently, there was an incident related to... Just then, another nurse arrived and interrupted Kimura. You can go. I'll take it from here. After the handover, the new nurse let out a sigh of relief and said to E, I'm sorry she's a bit blunt. You don't need to worry so much. E sat sorrowfully. On the hospital bed? Yes, thank you. Seeing this, the nurse comforted her. You've probably heard the news. Your older brother. Before the nurse could finish, E spoke up. Miss Mizuhara, I'm really craving something sweet right now. It seemed the little girl didn't want to talk about the death of her older brother, Egawa Zen. Since she was little, E had lived with an illness and could have lost her life at any moment. The girl suffered from a disease called mana allergy. Ever since the gates opened 50 years ago, mana began to seep into the atmosphere, causing a number of people began contracting a strange disease that caused them to gradually weaken and then die. Currently, there is still no cure for this illness, so no one has ever been. In the hospitals, doctors and nurses can only use a special material substance to temporarily suppress the disease and extend the patient's life. Fortunately, thanks to this substance, patients like ER have been able to survive until now. ER was sitting dazedly on her hospital bed when suddenly a news report on TV caught her attention. It was a feature on the hunter Aoki-sa. She was showcasing her powerful skills. ER was so captivated by the sight she couldn't tear her eyes away. Just then, out of nowhere, a little boy popped up shouting, Aoki-sa is so awesome! Those lightning bolts destroy everything. If I were an awakened, I would join her guild too. You think she's amazing too, right? I heard that when she first awakened, she had a total of 4 skills. You think Aoki-sa is super cool, don't you? ER was influenced by this innocent, pure energy. So she smiled brightly and replied, Yeah, super cool. A moment later, the boy's mother found him and led him away. Before leaving, she didn't forget to apologize to ER for the disturbance. It seems ER was well liked by everyone in the hospital. After her daily checkup, ER went to the vending machine in the hallway and bought a can of Coke. At that moment, many thoughts swirled in the little girl's mind. Even though we're the same age, Aoki-sa has become a top-tier hunter. She's completely different from me because I couldn't adapt to this world. Ever since my parents died in the monster flood from the gate break, my brother has always been by my side to help me. Because of my condition, I've unintentionally become a burden to him. Big brother, I want to see you. Remembering her brother ER couldn't hold back her tears. Now the little girl had no family left in the world. This world is so cruel to her. Just then, Nurse Mizuhara walked over and comforted her. Crying in a place like this will draw attention. You have to be strong. Little one, I believe your brother would want that too. You'll get better soon. You should be happy that your brother treated you so well. I'm sure that somewhere your brother has already prepared a discharge gift for you. These words somewhat improved ER's mood. The little girl stopped crying and gave a bright smile. Suddenly, they both looked out the window and noticed a brilliantly glowing object in the sky. Why is it so bright during the day? And it's so huge too. Just then, a loud shout echoed. Run! Hurry up! What are you two still doing? Run! Find cover now. That's a dungeon break from the rift. We've received a warning from the Hunter Association. We have to hide before it shatters. Hurry up! Go to Block B. What are you all doing? Hurry! Everyone in the hospital was in a panic, each person scrambling to find a way to escape as fast as possible. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, a giant red fist smashed through the wall behind them. It was a monster, enormous and grotesque. With blood-red skin, ER was trembling uncontrollably. She was scared out of her mind and didn't hear the nurse calling her name. I have to run. I have to run right now, but my legs won't move. The monster, after spotting its prey, furiously smashed through the hospital to charge in. At that moment, Mizuhara grabbed ER around the waist and pulled her back, saying, Hang in there. We have to lure it to the lobby. The association knows the situation and will send hunters here soon. I will buy some time. But before she could finish her sentence, she was pushed away by ER. ER knew she would be a burden and didn't want anyone to be sacrificed for her. After all, the little girl was all alone anyway, so even if she died, she would have no regrets. Mizuhara was about to rush, tried to save the little girl, but thankfully a man intervened. Just as ER was about to be snatched by the monster in that final moment, she was filled with regret, wondering if things would have been different if she had power. just as gave up on everything. Suddenly, someone appeared offering her a glimmer of hope. Like brother, like sister, huh? Why aren't you thinking about the people you're leaving behind? Opened her eyes to find she was still alive and all the surrounding monsters had been completely wiped out. The person responsible for this was Sue. He struck a badass pose over the corpse of the giant monster and then looked at You're Igawa aren't you? I'm here on behalf of your brother. I'm Kiritnisu. Your older brother is my benefactor. Upon hearing this, couldn't help but start to cry. Could this be the gift her brother had prepared for her elsewhere in the A-rank dungeon, the Dot Desert? Lamia Aoki was attacking the monsters in this dungeon. With the skills of an SS-rank hunter, she effortlessly took them down one by one. She could solo a massive horde of monsters all by herself without even breaking a sweat. In the meantime, her teammate Kaido Riku was busy gossiping with the rest of their party. What about that lawyer who tried to contact Sora recently? How did that go? His family is in law, but he's an A-rank hunter himself. He's got some serious guts deliberately approaching Sora. I wonder if he'll get anywhere. The mage Izumi immediately chimed in. He won't even get close. It just ended with that phone of his getting snapped in half. The unnamed ranger on the side also joined the gossip. Well, you can't blame them. Sora has way too many admirers. Besides, she's the only SS-rank hunter in all of Japan. These three gossiping slackers, along with Sora, all belong to the B-Side Guild, and their mission for the day was to clear this dungeon. The more Sora fought, the more she drew in, attracting even more monsters to swarm her. But she didn't complain. In fact, she seemed delighted by this. Sora needed a place to vent her stress, after being bothered so much recently. Those poor monsters became her unfortunate punching bags. After Sora finished off, all the mobs, the dungeon boss finally appeared. It erupted from a massive sand dune, revealing its colossal form. The moment it spawned, it immediately unleashed a massive beam from its mouth. The party's rangers saw this and raised their weapon ready to counterattack. But before they could pull the trigger, Sora stopped them via the comm system. Leave that one to me. The ranger didn't argue with the order. Fine, have it your way. It's not like I needed to do anything anyway, Lady Sora. The entire party was used to Sora, clearing dungeons all on her own. After all, she was completely overpowered. Sora summoned a bolt of lightning, striking and paralyzing the boss. She then channeled all the lightning into the tip of her spear and plunged it deep into the sand. The lightning traveled down the spear's tip, spreading out across a wide area and dealing massive AoE damage. The boss was hit directly by this attack and was instantly obliterated. The party then received the system notification, "Dungeon cleared." After the battle, Sora wanted to head out and rest right away, not even bothering to stick around and harvest materials from the monster corpses. To her, they weren't worth much money, so she didn't want to waste her energy. But just then, the space above them began to distort, and a gigantic eye appeared, a giant golden eye. Its appearance caused the entire dungeon to shake from an immense pressure. Sora immediately identified the source and turned her gaze toward the sky. The rest of the party also realized what it was: the dungeon core. Normally, this thing was supposed to appear deep within the desert, but for some unknown reason, it had manifested right here. The ranger, realizing the gravity of the situation then, quickly prepared his equipment, aimed carefully at the eye, and pulled the trigger. A mana bullet shot straight up into the sky at super speed, but the bullet gradually ran out of energy and vanished into thin air. A notification window immediately appeared for the marksman: most effective range, maximum firing range 7 kilometers. Target distance 12 kilometers. The marksman then reported this to Sora, stating that at this distance he couldn't deal any damage to the core at all. After hearing this, Sora decided to handle the core himself and assigned the task of dealing with the monster wave that was about to pour out of the dungeon. After the core appears, a dimensional gate will open, connecting to the real world. Monsters will swarm out of this gate and begin destroying everything in sight. The mission for the entire team, excluding Sora, would be to focus on rescuing people. Reinforcements from the guild will arrive soon to help eliminate the monsters. Meanwhile, Sora will approach and destroy the core using his skills. Even though monsters were pouring out, reporters were still risking their lives to cover the story. From the scene, I'm reporter Liam Kwang, reporting live from the scene of the dungeon break. I will now interview an expert for their opinion. Sir, may we ask you a few questions? Is it true that a monster wave usually appears When a major incident occurs inside a dungeon, the expert replied. That's correct. A monster wave will spawn many monsters of a higher level than the dungeon's rank. Based on my assessment, this event is at least A rank. And that moon everyone is seeing up there is the epicenter of the wave. Furthermore, the guardians, the protectors of the core, haven't even appeared yet. At this moment, Sora had reached a safe place and was observing the battle from a distance. Seeing ER walk over tiredly, he asked how she was doing. Is that mana sickness? ER replied in a weak voice. I'm fine. Are you also a cleaner, just like my brother? What did my brother say about me? Something like I was a burden, right? Is it my fault that my brother… Sora immediately cut the little girl off. Jen's death had nothing to do with you. If you still don't believe it, then use those feelings to overcome your current suffering. By doing that, maybe someday you will be able to move on. But remember one thing, your brother was always thinking about you and worrying about you. ER burst into tears after hearing this. All this time she had always considered herself a burden to her brother. Sora's words had somewhat resolved the turmoil in her heart. Afterwards, Sora pointed to the dungeon core in the sky and said he had something to do. At the center of the core, countless monsters poured out. They attacked every human in sight and destroyed everything in their path. Everyone ran in one direction hoping to escape. Only Sora went in the opposite direction. With his sword in hand, he charged fearlessly towards the monster horde. Sora swept through, cutting down every monster in his path as easily as slicing through butter. After a few days of clearing out the monsters here, I've figured a few things out. The most important stat seems to be the mana stat. If I raise other stats like strength and agility, I can improve my physical abilities quickly, but it only goes up to a certain point. After that time, I arm wrestled that hunter with a strength stat of 11. I realized some key differences. Sora, all alone, broke through the massive monster horde. Since there wasn't much time, he decided to ignore the smaller mobs and head straight for the main target, the massive monster horde. Since there wasn't much time, he decided to ignore the smaller mobs and head straight for the main target, the dungeon core. Du leaped powerfully and ran along the wall of a skyscraper as easily as if he were running on the ground. Meanwhile, he used 29 points to boost his mana stat, and suddenly a massive amount of mana flooded his entire body. This feeling was so awesome, Du leaped into the air and then unleashed a familiar move, channeling his mana into his sword. He launched it like an arrow at incredible speed. With this skill, Du was confident he could destroy the core in a single blow, but the sword struck the core but had no effect, like hitting solid steel. Du then crashed down to the ground, creating a large crater. He looked towards the core and carefully assessed the situation. It seemed that method wasn't very effective. My power level isn't high enough. I need to try a different approach. Just then, a violent tremor erupted from a distance. It was Sora unleashing her skill. A gigantic tornado carrying thousands of lightning bolts spiraled straight up into the sky towards the core. A massive explosion was created right after splitting the giant moon in two and revealing a golden core at its center. Sora now understood the situation. The moon was merely a protective shell. At that moment, the core gathered its energy and launched a colossal counterattack against Sora. A wave of energy, as red as blood, shot straight down to the ground as if to annihilate everything. Sora knew that if she dodged, countless civilians would lose their lives, so she chose to face it head-on. She raised her spear high and used her own body to block the attack. However, it seemed even an SS rank hunter would struggle against this blow. Sora was hit and sent flying. Fortunately, Du appeared just in time to catch her. Focus. Many people's lives depend on you. Sora was utterly astonished by his appearance. She couldn't believe she hadn't sensed someone getting so close. Just by touching Sora, Du could feel the flow of mana inside her. He was quite disappointed because she had wasted so much of her mana so pointlessly. Du placed both hands on Sora's waist and instructed, listen carefully to what I'm about to say. Circulate your mana exactly as I guide you. Sora's eyes widened in amazement. With just a few adjustments, the flow of mana in her body had been completely altered. Sora immediately felt a surge of immense power coursing through her. My mana has stabilized so much. What's more, my body feels even stronger than before. I had already used up a lot of my mana, so how can I have so much now? Oh, well, I'll think about this later. First, I need to take down that moon. Under Du's guidance, Sora's power increased, terrifyingly becoming even stronger than when she was at her peak. Sora used all her strength to unleash her previous skill again. But this time, the power was on a completely different level. The moon was hit and heavily damaged. Sora fell to her knees on the ground. Panting heavily, she thought that attack would be the end of it, but Du was still looking up at the sky and said, "It's not over yet. That thing is still not down. It seems pretty tough." "Hit it one more time," Du said, pointing at the moon, which had been split into multiple fragments. But Sora just shook her head wearily. "I can't. I'm completely out of strength. It looks like we'll have to wait for backup." Seeing that they couldn't rely on others, Du decided to handle it himself. He jumped onto the tip of Sora's spear and said, "After all, you're the strongest SS rank hunter in Japan, so launch me up there to get closer." That moon thing can't be that hard, right? Even though I don't quite get it, I decided to follow his lead anyway, since this guy just needs a few simple gestures to dramatically increase my power. Sora used all of her strength to powerfully swing her spear, creating a force that launched Su into the air. This time, he flew even higher than before, getting just close enough to attack to be certain Su even increased his stats by another 5 mana points. After gathering his mana, he threw his sword forward while simultaneously kicking it hard. To give the blade an extra burst of speed, the sword flew at an unbelievable velocity, piercing straight through the core and completely destroying the moon. Sora witnessed this spectacle completely speechless. She couldn't believe her own eyes after Su destroyed the core. He leveled up like crazy. Not only that, but he also acquired a new skill, but right now he's in freefall and about to crash to the ground. Sora stood to the side looking over at Su with so many questions swirling in her mind. It's truly unbelievable. He didn't just readjust my mana flow, but he also managed to defeat that guardian moon. Could it be that his rank is even higher than mine? The next day, the media held an interview with Sora about the recent incident involving the monster tide from yesterday, which was S+ rank. That's an incredibly high and rarely seen rank. Thanks to you, the damage it caused was significantly reduced. Sora immediately spoke up to correct the record. "Actually, there was another hunter who worked with me on that, but after we took down that moon he just left, I don't know his identity either. If I ever get the chance, I'd love to meet him again." Who was watching the news immediately realized that Hunter was Su, but Su didn't want to admit it, so he tried to change the subject. "How's your health now? It seems like you've recovered pretty well, huh?" Immediately replied that before, when she was hospitalized, she was a bit worried, but now she's fine. "Hey brother, it looks like you aren't working as a porter anymore, are you?" Su replied that he had become an awakened one. But when asked about becoming a hunter, Su hesitated a little. "I'm not sure yet. If you want to become a hunter, you have to pass an evaluation test, but I haven't gone for it yet." After getting some encouragement from Su decided to take the upcoming test and become a hunter. Sometime later, at the hunter strength evaluation area in the F rank Nadia Rainforest Dungeon. While everyone else was anxiously awaiting the test, one young man was in the mood to live stream. "Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing today? This is the Hunting with Hunters channel, the broadcast that brings you an inside look at the secrets of the hunters. We will be broadcasting the 588th Hunter examination live from the testing grounds." Then, he randomly picked a brown-haired young man for an interview. "Excuse me, could I have a quick word with you?" This young man's name is Yabuki. He confidently boasted, "Sora, Aoki got 4 skills when she awakened, right? Well, I got 3. When asked about his goal for the test, he confidently declared that he would take first place and viewed all the other contestants as total noobs, but Su could tell with just a glance that the guy would max out at A rank at best. His mana was constantly leaking from his body and being wasted. Just then, the entire testing area erupted into chaos because of the appearance of Sora Aoki as an examiner. "Hello, everyone. I am Hunter Aoki. I hope all of you candidates will be able to show off your full potential." Everyone started pushing and shoving their way forward. "Is that really her? She's the real deal. Isn't this the first time Sora Aoki has ever come to a testing site?" "Move it. I can't see a thing. The only one. The best Su can do is find a way to track them later. Getting involved with the other participants would just be a hassle. I should get out of here, of this chaotic place as soon as possible. But the best way is probably to avoid anything that looks eye-catching. As for Sora, at this moment she could only sigh. She was here because Yosuke the Guildmaster of the Otara Guild had requested it. The other day he had met with Sora privately to talk. The gate you destroyed before originated from the D-Tome Desert Dungeon, didn't it? Because our guild was handling that dungeon when the incident occurred, the public has fabricated rumors that I arranged it all to promote you. The chairman of the Japanese branch of the Hunter Association will also be attending the upcoming competition. So, if you participate, we will be able to satisfy both the public and the VIPs, and the rumors will quickly disappear. Oh, that's right, if you spot any promising rookies, remember to recruit them for our guild. Back in the present, after the test was announced. To begin, all the awakened ones rushed forward. Only Sue went his own way, leaping through the tree branches. The mission is to survive for 24 hours. Most of them got swept up in the program. It's understandable, but it's so boring. Just then, Sue sensed a familiar energy. It was mana sorcery, still weak, but it was clearly from my past life. Who could it be? Also, could there still be many reincarnators like me at this moment? Wakamatsu Kenzu, the chairman of the Japanese Hunter Association, was chatting with Sora. I wonder who the most promising candidate will be this time. Sora looked at the list and said perhaps it's Ibuki. He had as many as 3 unique abilities when he first awakened, but Kenzu didn't think so at all. You've forgotten about the younger contestants, the person who stopped the first monster wave in Japan. The Hellfire is an S-rank hunter. Seeing how certain he was, Sora didn't argue any further. She then asked, "So, who do you think will take first place, Mr. Chairman?" After thinking for a moment, Kenzu replied, "Number 241 seems promising. He hasn't wasted a single second. Kiritsu, 20 years old. Though he's young, he's very cautious. How should I put it? He's like me back when I was fighting on the battlefield." After Sora saw this person's photo in the files, her eyes lit up like headlights. "Kiritsu, so you're the one who just awakened, huh?" At this moment, Sue still didn't know that his identity had been exposed. He was still leaping through the trees, observing a group of people. It seemed a guy named Yabuki was the leader of this party, and he was arrogant and insulting another person. "Is this a hunter examination? You've been a loudmouth ever since high school. Just looking at you. I know what kind of person your grandfather is." The person being insulted, named Kishin, couldn't take it anymore, so he released mana into his fist, preparing to fight. "Don't you talk about my grandfather." But Yabuki's group had 3 people, and all 3 were ready to jump him. "Haha, you want to challenge me, a failure like you with only 1 unique ability." Just then, Sue jumped down from a tree and got in between them. Seeing this, Yabuki got angry. "What do you want? I don't know who the hell you are, but if you don't want trouble, then get lost." Sue paid him no mind and turned to Kishin saying, "I've been secretly following you. And you still ran into a bunch of problematic people, and I really hate trouble. I'll lead you away." After saying that, Sue grabbed Kishin and started running, like a mother carrying her child. Seeing this, Yabuki ordered an immediate pursuit, but as soon as he charged forward, Sue sent him flying with a kick, flying backward. Kishin still didn't understand what was happening or who this person was. As they ran, Sue asked about Asla and Idia. "Do you understand what those words mean?" Shin answered, that he didn't understand a damn thing. So Sue continued, "Just tell me the truth about the mana technique you're using, called Razor. Who taught it to you?" Sin was utterly shocked. "How do you know about my ability?" Sue immediately stopped, sat down, and began to slowly question him. After their conversation, Sue learned that Shin had awakened an ability taught to him by his grandfather. He never expected that Razor would also exist as an ability here. This was the crucial link connecting Sue to his past life. The two then introduced themselves to each other. Being 1 year older, Sue was accepted as his senior. After confirming again that Shin's Razor was taught by his grandfather, Sue fell into deep thought. He then asked Shin, "Do you have any other name? Something like Ruben or Robert, for instance?" Being hit with these strange questions made Shin a little angry. "What are you talking about? My grandfather is Japanese." At that moment, Sue confirmed that this guy had no connection to his past life. Sue then asked about Shin's beef with the group of guys they had just encountered. Shin answered bitterly. The guy in the middle is Yabuki, my classmate from high school. After he awakened his powers, he's always looked down on everyone around him. I've been itching to knock him down a peg for a long time, but in terms of power, I'm no match for him, so I've never dared to seriously fight back. After hearing this, Sue asked, "Is the number of abilities you have that important?" Shin immediately became agitated. Of course it is. The more abilities you possess, the higher your rank. But he couldn't even finish his sentence before he was struck speechless. Sue simply gave the sword in his hand a light swing and it cleaved a giant boulder in two. I only used mana for that. I didn't use my ability at all. Witnessing this incredible power, Shin was left speechless. It took him a moment to react without even using an ability. "You were able to do that. Please, I'm begging you. Teach me. I can't let that rotten Yabuki get away with it." Sue accepted his request, but on one condition. After a period of training under his new master, Shin went to find the three goons. For a showdown, Sue stood back, not interfering in this fight. Shin challenged Yabuki, and although Yabuki could sense that something was off about Shin, his mind was clouded by arrogance. He was completely unaware that the outcome of the battle had been decided from the very start. Before the fight, Shin didn't forget to run his mouth. "You haven't improved a bit since high school." "Huh. Still just a punk?" The taunt sent Yabuki into a rage and he released his mana. "Don't you dare provoke my power. I'll use it however I damn well please." He quickly used mana to form a shield in front of him even as Shin charged in to attack. But he wasn't fast enough to stop the shield from forming. Seeing this, Yabuki smirked smugly. "What a complete moron. Did you really think I'd just stand here and let you hit me? When my mana wall is struck by a physical attack, my mana burst ability activates. The point of contact between the spear tip and the shield instantly erupted with immense heat. It felt as if Shin's hand was about to melt. At that moment, Shin recalled Sue's earlier words and put them into practice. Use only a single technique. Don't just let your mana coat the spear. Instead, concentrate all your power into a single point. The moment he mastered this technique, a system window popped up. Your ability has been upgraded. Razor, rank C, has increased to rank B. Shin used all his might, focusing his power on the epicenter of the heat. The mana shield began to crack, unable to withstand such immense power. Moments later, it completely shattered before Yabuki's astonished eyes. He couldn't believe that the ability he took so much pride in could be defeated so easily. Then landed a spear strike to his gut and sent Gu flying. Gu tumbled several times on the ground before coming to a stop. He shot back up immediately, his mind still refusing to believe this was real. Just then, Shin rushed in and struck him with his spear in the back, knocking him flat on his face and out cold on the spot. Shin was already panting. After just a few moves, he couldn't believe it himself. He had just defeated a triple ability awakened. "I did it. I defeated him. No way. I actually beat Yabuki before he even had a chance to use his powers." Shin looked excitedly towards X to show off his victory like a child. "I did it. It's all thanks to you." Senior X, after lightly bonking the heads of Gu's other two henchmen, sat and watched the two youngsters fight. Well done. Afterwards, the two of them split the material cores from the three men. As agreed, Sue would take 50% as a tuition fee. Shin still couldn't believe it was true, as he originally only intended to take 20% at most. After splitting the loot, Sue asked, "The test is almost over. Have you thought about whether you want to do the death hunt?" Shin recalled the terrifying scene from before and said, "If I could, I would have done it. A long time ago. The only one who could do it in that 12-minute window is probably you." Seeing there was nothing else to do, Sue decided to leave. "Is this your number? If I call, make sure you come running, okay? And keep this transaction a secret." Shin saw this and quickly asked, "Wait, but there are still a few more steps to follow the proper procedure." Sue said to just leave those things to the people in charge of management, then turned and walked towards the gate. As soon as Sue stepped out of the dungeon, the results were updated. He had officially become a certified hunter. This encounter gave Sue a lot to think about regarding the future. Out there are still many people like Shin. Just as I thought, once I gather enough people, I'll need to create a new guild. But even so, I have to reach C rank to create a guild. I need to do it as fast as possible. Sue had only been walking for a moment When he encountered a woman completely covered up blocking his path, he immediately recognized her as Sora and decisively turned to leave. You've got the wrong person. Sora immediately blocked him. Stop right there. I haven't said anything yet, Sue scoffed after hearing her. Ha, you want to start something with me again? Sora took off her mask and said, Yes, and it's personal. I didn't think you'd climb to the top and pass the evaluation without going through any official channels and then disappear like that. What's more, you even used an emergency portal in the middle of the city. Let's talk for a bit, Mr. Kiritsu. Afterwards, Sora took Sue to a store specializing in gear for hunters. The wealthy Sora didn't hesitate to buy Sue a ton of equipment from head to toe. This suits you well. I think this will be perfect for someone like you, a person who specializes in speed during combat. And also these stamina recovery items. You also need protective gear, a belt, and an item pouch. Looking at the pile of high-end gear in front of him, Sue now understood just how rich an SS rank hunter was. Although he accepted the items, he still had to make it clear to Sora. I don't know what you want, but even if you do this, I won't change my mind. After hearing him, Sora said, Don't worry, in terms of professional matters, I'm a higher-ranking hunter than you. It's not for nothing that things happen in dungeons. Just as they say, opportunity comes to those who are prepared. Besides, this money is a reward for your help in stopping the dungeon break. You don't have to think too deeply about it. I don't mind spending it. Just then, Sue noticed the materials section next to the wall, which was exclusively for professionals. Only master artisans could handle these materials, so no one else even glanced at them after browsing for a bit. Jin picked up 2 bags of components. With this haul, he could craft something similar to the elixirs from his past life. Jin was pleased, but Sora was absolutely livid. She held a receipt longer than a roll of toilet paper, her whole body trembling in the elevator. She didn't say a single word to Jin. Noticing this, he spoke up, asking, You've been quiet for a while, haven't you? Sora intended to stay silent a bit longer, but then decided to move on. Straight to the point, I'll get right to it. This is my official offer, Kirita. I want you to join my guild. I promise you'll receive the same treatment I do. Jin didn't hesitate for a second and refused immediately after hearing this. Sora continued. You don't have to be so blunt about it. Please at least tell me why. Jin explained. I don't really have a reason. I just don't like the idea of being ranked beneath anyone. Sora immediately dropped the 2 bags in her hands and aggressively said, I get it. In that case, I'll amend my offer. I want you to partner with me. I want to experience that old feeling again. Jin was a bit confused why this woman was so persistent. Isn't she one of the top hunters in Japan? It seemed so. Sora then continued, I want to reach even greater heights. The more people expect from me, the better the results I have to show. That's why I have to get stronger. Sora showed extreme determination towards her goal. She was ready to sacrifice anything to achieve it. Seeing this, Jin made his decision. I understand. I accept. I'm also curious to see what Japan's #1 hunter will become. Afterwards, the 2 of them went to a large building. To have a proper fight, Sora geared up in her full combat equipment, the kind she wears for dungeon raids, while Jin just held a single sword. This is my private training room. It's the quietest and most spacious place here. This should be big enough, right? I'll do my best to avoid using mana, but Jin said that wasn't necessary and told Sora to go all out at this. Sora stopped holding back and activated her unique skill. Her entire body was enveloped in golden lightning. This ability not only increases her attack power, but also boosts the user's speed. Sora dashed forward like a flash of lightning, closing the distance and thrusting her spear. Towards Jin, he wasn't surprised at all and calmly used his sword to parry every single attack after exchanging a few blows. Sora was already at a disadvantage and was knocked back. Jin understood the problem with Sora's fighting style just by watching because she isn't that skilled at mana control. She just brute forces it, turning it into a raw power brawl. Interesting, Jin didn't let his opponent rest and rushed in to attack again. The power of each strike was enhanced but based on his years of combat experience. Jin could easily dodge her attacks in an instant. Jin saw an opening in Sora's attack and launched a counterattack, but his strike against Sora's chest had no effect. The mana density concentrated on her armor was so high that Jin's sword couldn't penetrate it faced with an attack from Sora. Jin was forced to retreat. Witnessing this absurd level of power, Sora exclaimed in disbelief. Are you really? An E-ranker, Jin replied that on paper that's correct. After fighting for a while, Jin realized this battle wouldn't end anytime soon. He decided to drop the swords in his hands. Seeing this, Sora asked, "Are you surrendering?" But Jin had never surrendered in any fight before he unleashed his mana aura from his entire body and said, "Not at all. If I use a sword, I can't go all out. Don't think so badly of me. This means I acknowledge your strength." Sora used 35 points to raise her mana stat to 70. You could say she became twice as strong as she was a second ago. Sensing the danger, she immediately began spinning her spear above her head, unleashing lightning all around, preventing Shin from getting close. After a moment of analysis, Shin found a way to counter this move. He wrapped his hand in mana and grabbed the lightning bolt with his bare hand. Witnessing this, Sora was flabbergasted. Did he just catch lightning with his bare hands? Is that even possible? Shin then used the lightning to launch himself into the air, landing right behind Sora. He decided to use a skill taught to him by Crass in his past life, before Sora could even react. She was hit by a palm strike from behind. She immediately lost consciousness, and in her haze, old memories began to surface in her mind. You awakened with 4 different abilities. Aren't you going to be the one to represent Japan? In the future, she's not just talented. Look at her. She's so beautiful and mature. She clearly contributed so much during this monster outbreak. We should raise her rank to S rank. We have high hopes for your bright future, Miss Aoki. Those were the words Sora heard after revealing her talents to stop a monster outbreak. From that moment on, Sora saw this as her responsibility, and she felt compelled to become stronger to meet everyone's expectations. After that, Sora frantically took on missions from the guild. Even her manager had to remind her, "Miss Aoki, this is the 3rd day in a row you've taken a mission. Why don't you take a day off and rest at home?" After checking her schedule, Sora decided to go home and rest. Just then, the sight of a group of students playing around across the street caught her eye. Sora should have been experiencing that same youthful school life, but now, the hopes and responsibilities of all of Japan rested on her shoulders. Sora hesitated for a moment, then decided to head to the location of the next monster outbreak, back in the present. Sora woke up after being unconscious for a while. The moment she opened her eyes, she asked Shin about the result of the battle. After learning she had lost, Sora exclaimed, "You surpassed even my expectations." How shameful. Shin pointed out Sora's problem, that she always tried to shoulder everything herself, so it's understandable. Sora now understood that too. I didn't know who to learn from, and maybe the burden of carrying an entire nation on my shoulders was just too much pressure for me. Shin then continued, "That's a given. You shouldn't be the only one carrying everything. You don't need to rush to take on every single task. No matter how much pressure you put on yourself, things won't change that much. Don't get me wrong, I still support what you do." Sora was moved by these words to the point of tears. For the first time in her life, someone wasn't placing the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Sora gathered all her courage and spoke up. "In that case, please teach me the secret to obtaining power like yours." Shin extended his hand and said, "All right, but only if you join my side." Sometime later, inside an E-rank Saitama dungeon, Shin was fighting against a horde of goblins. By now, his combat techniques had improved greatly, and he could easily eliminate these low-level mobs after finishing off the last one. Shin cheerfully turned to the side. "Hey, I've cleared out this area, but I think I've seen this place before." Su was currently glued to his phone and didn't pay much attention to these words. He just told Shin it was his imagination and continued deeper into the dungeon. The other day, Shin had received a small shield from Su as a gift. Now, Shin would take on the role of a sub-tank. Su was starting to build a party of his own, and each member's position would be assigned based on their abilities. Shin was assigned his position and rushed forward like an excited child. "All right, since I'm a tank, I'll go first." As Su walked, he thought about the future. He was glad this guy was actually talented. "I've already dealt with the matter of Aoki, so now it's time for me to focus on advancing to C rank and establishing a guild. After that, I can start gathering information about my past life. Just then, Shin's terrified scream echoed from afar. When Su heard it, he quickly ran over to check the situation. When he arrived, he saw Shin on the ground trembling and pointing ahead. In front of them was a corpse. Judging by the gear, you could tell this person was a tank and hadn't been dead for long. Although it was faint, Su could feel the residual mana on the shield. Thanks to that, he could trace the location of this person's party. Following the mana trail, the two arrived at a place littered with bodies. Shin saw it and wondered. Did a monster stronger than expected appear, but Su thought differently. I suspect this wasn't caused by a monster. Look at the order in which they fell. The tank, the main damage dealer, the healer. The positions where they fell were specific. Su then approached and examined the bodies in detail. They took out the most troublesome one, first the healer. Then they moved on to the main damage dealer and the tank. This couldn't possibly be the work of a monster in an E-rank dungeon. After his analysis, the final conclusion was that this was caused by other hunters, and the boss room up ahead might be where the culprits are. Su and Shin didn't hesitate and ventured deeper into the dungeon. The two had just walked a little further when they discovered an area filled with human trash and belongings. Someone had definitely been living here. It was like a hideout, and the owners of this place weren't very friendly to visitors. From the amount of residual mana, it seemed they had fled after discovering their hideout had been exposed. Shin clutched his head and lamented. I can't believe they were living in a dungeon we were trying to clear. What terrible luck. But Su was different. He was secretly pleased about this. What's so unlucky about it, I think? No one is as lucky as we are. Finally, Su had a chance to test his unique ability, Executor. After getting out, Su reported the incident to the cleanup crew. A few ambulances arrived and transported the bodies away. Tom Murin, the captain of Cleanup Crew Squad 2, arrived and started a conversation with Su. Kiritani, long time no see. I didn't expect to meet you like this. It seems you've had your awakening. This was the man Su had met before at the hospital. After exchanging greetings, Tom immediately got to the point. Since you're a witness, just discuss this with the person in charge. I have other business to attend to. Immediately after, a person with the rank of major arrived and took over the case. It was a woman named Tachibana Karu. As soon as she saw them, she asked, Are you the first witnesses, Kiritani Su and Kishida Shinwei? She was Major Kara from the Hunter Control Division, and after confirming it was the right person, Kara asked him if he had noticed anything suspicious or strange. Jin replied that since he'd never experienced anything like this, he wouldn't know what to look for. Out of the ordinary. After the questioning, Jin asked for Kara's business card since he planned to continue hunting in the nearby area. Emblem on the card intently. He had seen it once before back when he was part of a cleanup crew. It seemed that because this case was so serious, the military had decided to intervene. Afterwards, Kara said goodbye and turned to leave. Jin, also, decided to head back instead of continuing his hunt. Now he had something more important to do. In Oma, he had followed the lingering traces of mana to a hotel. After searching for a bit, he found the culprit's room. The room was radiating a dense amount of mana, so he was sure the killer was still inside. Just as Jin was preparing to storm in, he suddenly heard a strange noise. It seemed he had been discovered and the culprit was escaping. Jin immediately used his sword to break down the door and pursued the culprit through the window. Despite his speed, the culprit was cornered by Jin on the rooftop. He angrily screamed, "Who the hell are you? Are you from the association or sent by the military?" Jin's entire being now radiated a dangerous killing intent. "If you surrender, I'll go easy on you." But of course the killer had no intention of surrendering. He slowly drew the long blade from his back and prepared to attack. So a hero shows up, huh? Unlucky for you, I have no intention of surrendering. I just need to kill you, and this will all be over. The killer leaped onto an adjacent wall, then launched himself at Jin from above. Jin not only dodged the attack, but also grabbed the man's arm and slammed him against the wall. "I have a lot of questions for you. Why were you living in a dungeon? What's your name? Who are your accomplices?" The killer still refused to speak. "What's your problem? Are you related to that dead guy or something? You're all a bunch of idiots. We just took out some trash, so what? Besides, the only way you can get justice is through the law. Stop acting like some righteous hero. Go on, try and arrest me." Seeing that the killer refused to cooperate, Jin decided to take action. "Did you think I was just making empty threats? So you're still going to play these games, huh? Don't think for a second that I won't serve justice myself." After saying that, Jin snapped the killer's neck without any hesitation. A level-up notification popped up. At the same time, he also received a new S-rank ability, Super Enhancement. This was the effect of his first ability, the Karma of Heretics will become your strength. Jin had a few theories about this new ability of his. Does the word heretic in his executioner skill refer to ordinary criminals, or does it mean people who use their hunter powers for evil? In any case, this was a great way to level up. The system was clearly telling him that he needed to eliminate these heretics. Just then, the dead killer's phone began to ring. As soon as Jin answered, the voice on the other end spoke up. "Hey, Maki, you bastard. The control division is sniffing around. You could at least answer your phone like a normal person." "You mutt, the day of the purge is coming, so don't get yourself caught." Jin smirked and replied, "A newly established guild." "Is it? And you have to rely on small fry like this? What kind of scheme are you guys running? Dragging criminals like him into it?" The other killer on the other end threatened Jin, saying if he wanted to live, he'd better shut his mouth. Jin paid him no mind and asked, "So it really is about money, isn't it? So when is this day of the purge? Why don't you tell me?" The other killer went ballistic and started spewing a stream of curses at Jin, refused to listen, and smashed his phone. Then he pulled out a business card he'd gotten earlier from the Hunter Control Division. "Major Tachibana Karua. Perhaps I should thank this public servant by giving them this intel. The guy who just called that. Maki is actually Yushima Ryuji, an A-rank hunter. Right now, he's furiously smashing a table as his subordinate standing beside him immediately asks, 'Captain, are you okay?' After learning that Maki had been captured, he asked again, 'Don't tell me they beat us to the punch.' Ryuji replies, 'I'm not sure yet, but it doesn't seem like the work of the Control Division.' Many questions now swirled in his mind. If Maki was captured, does that mean our opponent is also a hunter? A newly awakened hunter? With no government ties, wants to pick a fight with me. After thinking it over, Ryuji decided to proceed with the next step of his plan. Meanwhile, at the Tentu Special Prison, Major Karu's subordinate was groaning that just breathing was exhausting. Karu explained, "It's because of the mana jamming material here, which suppresses the abilities of hunters if captured. A-rank hunters and below lose their abilities completely, while S-ranks can only use half of their normal power." This time, the two of them were here to meet a very familiar face. That person was Hijikata Yusaku, a former hunter, and an instructor at the Control Division. Upon seeing them, he greeted them saying, "Long time no see, Captain Tachibana. You're a major now, huh? Things are going well for you. Hunters seem to be ranking up quickly these days." Karu, after sitting down in the chair, finally spoke. "It's been 8 years and you still haven't kicked your habit of spouting nonsense. You were the one who taught me the art of interrogation. We both know we should skip the pleasantries." She then tossed several photos onto the table and continued, "Yushima Ryuji was one of your subordinates in class back in the day. He's been making some big moves lately. Organized crime syndicates and professional criminals are popping up like weeds as if he's uniting them all." Yusaku still wore a bright smile and said, "Yushima, now that's a surprising name. Are you implying I'm the puppet master pulling his strings even though I have no way of contacting him?" Karu couldn't take it anymore, slammed the table and yelled, "I'm here this time, so don't even dream of pulling anything." A repeat of the president's assassination attempt from 8 years ago will not happen again. Yusaku suddenly let out a sinister laugh. "Kukuku. Tell me, Tachibana, have you ever felt a sense of duty to take action? The current government is filled with incompetent fools hiding behind the facade of the law, lording over all of us. That's why 8 years ago I decided to bury them with my own 2 hands and teach them a lesson. In any case, I do regret the tragedy that occurred during that incident because your father was truly a great hunter. As you can see, my abilities are sealed and I'm locked in a cell with the strongest mana jamming effect. I'm already powerless, yet you're still trying to pin this on me." Karu immediately strode forward and grabbed the chains around Yusaku's neck, yelling, "You've been living too peacefully in this prison, haven't you? I won't allow you to take a single step out of this place After the cordial chat yielded no useful information, Karu and her subordinate left 8 years ago 35 hunters, gathered to take down Yusaku when he attempted to assassinate the president. One of them was Karu's father. Ultimately, Yusaku's actions were thwarted by the current chairman, the Honorable Wakamatsu. However, sacrifices were inevitable. Karu was reminiscing about the past with her subordinate when she suddenly got a message from Sue. "It seems you're progressing quickly, that's Sue, the one who escaped the dungeon yesterday, and Shin begin their hunt again at the D-rank Loam mine dungeon. Now Sue needs not only money but also resources, and this dungeon has exactly what he's looking for." When Shin asked why he didn't just sell the materials for cash, Sue replied that there are things in the hunter shop that even money can't buy. Just then, a monster charged towards the two of them. Shin played his role as a tank, perfectly rushing forward. He blocked the attack and finished the monster with a single spear thrust, but more monsters swarmed in. Soon, they had surrounded the two of them. After a long fight, all the minions were defeated mostly by Sue's hand. Finally, the boss of this mine, an earth golem, appeared. This boss had a gigantic body far different from the smaller monsters. Shin was a bit stunned upon seeing it, but in Sue's eyes the boss was just a walking pile of resources. Without hesitation, he charged forward to attack immediately. Seeing this, the boss used its giant leg to stomp down hard, but Sue dodged it and ran up the boss's leg. He leaped up and with a few slashes shattered the boss into tiny pieces. Sue had now obtained the materials he wanted. After returning home, Sue immediately began the process of alchemy. Using the secret elven art of unlocking latent abilities, he stayed up all night to craft a single spirit pill from the pile of resources he'd gathered. His motive for hunting in the dungeon with Shin was to collect more materials for the spirit pill. However, Sue had tried many times without any success. It wasn't until the following night after, experiencing countless failures, that Sue successfully crafted one spirit pill. This spirit pill had the ability to absorb ore energy. Quality D. Effect stamina +1 after consumption. Dosage: do not use more than 1 pill per day. At this rate, besides, Manasu would be able to enhance his other stats as well. After consuming the spirit pill, his stamina stat was increased by 1 point to 11. Thanks to this, he would no longer have to rely on the executioner skill. Just then, a news report on TV caught Sue's attention. An unidentified body was found in the middle of an intersection last night. The police are continuing their investigation, believing this incident is related to the ability user cases that have occurred in the Fukui Prefecture. After hearing this news, Sue decided to reveal their territory to Major Karu. He was eager to see how far they could investigate with that clue. Sue wrote the tip on a piece of paper and placed it on Karu's car. When Karu received it, she immediately reported to her superior, Colonel Masuo. After hearing the report, the colonel sternly asked her, "Again, whenever there's a case involving ability users, Jimaruji somehow always appears nearby. Are you saying that man is in Tokyo, do you realize how serious what you've just said is?" Karu replied grimly. "Of course I do, Colonel." He then asked, "Is your conclusion based on any evidence?" Karu explained that there was only a single contact number in the burnt phone. That was a code pointing to their hideout in Tokyo, the closest we've ever gotten to Yushima's whereabouts. The colonel pointed to his head and said, "The incident in Fukui, their motive was the Fukui nuclear power plant. We also found plenty of evidence pointing to Fukui where Maki was killed. Yushima also had a hand in the Fukui case. This is our chance to catch them. But what is Yushima's real purpose in Tokyo? Don't tell me it's Jusaku." At the mention of that name, Karu, as if they wanted to eat him alive. Maybe they're targeting the president again. If not, then they're definitely plotting something else. They've already set everything up and are just observing our side's movements. The colonel immediately cut Tachibana off. "You always get too emotional when it comes to Yusaku. The president went abroad last night. Do you think a prisoner can take revenge for something that happened 8 years ago?" Karu then spoke up. He will be departing from the airport Haneda, which is right next to Tentu Prison, where Hijikata is being held. "I will take full responsibility if I'm wrong, but if this is the price we must pay to prevent another tragedy." The colonel was convinced by these words. "You haven't changed a bit. Gather all local police forces. I'll take a chance and trust your intuition. Report to me immediately if anything happens." On the outside of Tentu Prison, Ryuji checked the prison blueprints after receiving a report from his subordinate. It seems Fubuki has also started to make his move. This map contains the entire underground system here. Ryuji's subordinate, Dendediri, used the map and found the target. He placed his hand on the wall and activated his B-rank ability Hand of God. The wall was instantly blown away without a trace. Normally, abilities don't work here, but thanks to the device in his hand, that was no longer an issue. After everyone geared up, Ryuji led a team forward. Thanks to the map, they found their destination and successfully infiltrated the prison. When a guard discovered them, Ryuji didn't hesitate to kill him to keep him quiet. He then ordered his subordinates to head straight for the surveillance room. Thanks to the ability Deadly Poison, an A-rank ability, the entire surveillance room was disabled. Everything was proceeding smoothly up to this point according to Ryuji's plan. After a few actions, the door to the deepest cell was opened. Ryuji led his subordinates to it and knelt before Jus. "I've come for you, Instructor Yusaku." Yusaku then flashed a sinister smile. "This is truly paradise. I've been waiting for you for a very long time."